Mate, let's move on to the weekly preview, shall we? Now, as always, it is buy, hold, and sell time, and we've obviously added a watch list to that as well. And let's start with the buys this week.
Targets acquired.
Kick us off, mate.
We've got Nathan Cleary. Dare I say the best halfback in the game? If you don't have him, it's going to be a scary watch against any team because the Penrith Panthers do not have a bad matchup. They're the best team in the comp, and he is the best player in the comp at the moment. If you don't have Nathan Cleary, give yourself an uppercut.
Is there a reason to go, you know what, I want to watch a week based on this hamstring injury? We know that they're recurring, high risk of reoccurrence in the first 2 weeks back from this injury as well. But you've got to feel better about the fact you took an extra week to get good.
Yeah, I think the only world where you don't, with some of this news coming out of the Sharks, the only world where you don't get Cleary is maybe if you have Nico and SJ at the moment with the plan to go SJ to Cleary next week. He's got a break even of 80. I don't think he's going to change in price too much, even if he gets 100. But you know what? We're talking about SJ against the Titans. The North Queensland Cowboys were very ordinary. I would say that the Titans have been playing better footy in the last 2 weeks than the Cowboys. So.
I 100% agree with that. I'm looking at Nathan Cleary's last outing for anybody who was still engaged in Supercoach in round 27 last year. He put up 149 points as a very popular captain option. So the way that the Cowboys are playing this year, I would not be surprised if he goes close. So if you can get him in and it's not an SJ Hines combination, I'd probably say that's the only instance where you could probably watch for a week with SJ playing against the Titans. So if not, get Cleary in your team. Speaking of the next guy, Nico Hines, with no Braden Trindle, I think this is incredibly appealing. I don't know about you, but watching the game last week, I watched it pretty closely because I would have captained him if I didn't captain Turbo. I tell you what, there was a lot of 2022-23 Nico Hines in this game. He had his hands in everything.
Yeah, just went out there looking for it that we haven't seen the first couple of weeks. And look, a lot of people are putting that down to Braden Trindle. Looks like he won't be around for a few weeks. So the worst watch for me is that I don't have Nico Hines. I don't think he's a bigger priority than Cleary because I like the longevity of Cleary. And you know what? Nico could just go back to where he's been. Nico's a lot more likely to get a 20 than Nathan Cleary is. But yeah, look, Nico Hines has hit it out of the park. If you bring in Nico Hines, you won't get any arguments from me.
Yeah, fair shout. A couple of comments about the volume of the sound effect. I'm going to have to go back in and actually just completely recreate them because, it must have been created with a higher volume or something. But anyway, leave it with me. I'll sort it for next week. Apologies. And sorry to Neville Bumsquirt for nearly shitting himself. That's probably one of the best YouTube names I've seen as well. Let's move on to Reece Walsh as a buy this week. Bottomed out in price, 40 odd break even. You're coming off 100, playing against the Tigers at Campbelltown where they're poor. Is there a reason not to get him? And you obviously have probably not a really biased take because you don't own Broncos players in Supercoach.
No, I don't have a biased take, and no, there's no reason not to own Reece Walsh. Full stop.
Now, there's a lot of concern around his base and all that kind of stuff, but Reece Walsh isn't a player you pick for his base. You just, if you want base, pick C and K. He's a perfectly fine option if you want 70 each week, but I want the upside that Reece Walsh has in just how electric he was last week. He looked great.
Yeah, and there is a few reasons as to why he's 600k now. Sort of didn't fire at the start of the year, but neither did the Broncos. They're starting, like they've got A-Ray and Haas. I know we're going to talk about that later, but you know, they've got the go forward, they've got the organizer, they've even got like the guy that makes those runs out this week. I know we're not talking about captains yet, but if you're captaining or vice captaining Walsh, you won't get any arguments from me.
Fair shout. We've got to bring up Michael Finch's comment. Thanks for the donation, mate. We appreciate that. Trade plans for KPP with Ponga out. Is there any thought there? Well, I mean, we'll talk about sells soon, but is he a guy you're starting to think about selling?
No, I was pretty keen on saying earlier that it's the outside backs that I'm worried about, because Ponga gets that ball to them. Look, maybe KPP doesn't make as devastating runs because they're not as worried about Ponga, but that's a little bit indirect, and I'm going to look for a couple of weeks. Look, in 2 weeks, I could be trading out Kai Pierce-Paul because Ponga's not out. But right now, I have zero concern with Kai Pierce-Paul. He's been elite.
Yeah, me too. I feel like he can create his own opportunities too. I don't think he's really had to rely on Kalen Ponga too much. So he's definitely someone that would hold. Fourth on the buy list, three primos we've started with, and we've got two cheaper guys. Samuel Afinu, very interesting pick, but I think he's a buy this week, especially with the lack of security, I guess, in the front row forward position. He is a front row 2RF dual. He has been named to start on an edge this week with Fanua Bole dropping back to the bench for the West Tigers, which is very positive considering they've been using Bole pretty much all year to start either at lock or at prop. So the fact that they're buying into Fainu and giving him some minutes on an edge and moving Bateman to lock is pretty positive because Bateman played some lock last year. I think Fainu could be a nice pick, and he is priced still in the mid 300s. You could probably watch the week. Yeah, you could watch a week. I mean, his break even isn't silly. You're not going to really miss too much cash by having a look at what he looks like and seeing whether that edge position is consistent. But I think he's a buy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that is a serviceable buy, especially maybe moving out of Liam Henry or something for those people out there that have Hughes and Curran, which are great popular options at the moment, but you can't do much with them when they don't have a buy. Look, this is probably the week to buy with a break even of 37. You could bring him in next week. I don't hate it. I was saying it in the Discord to one of the guys today. I'm just very aware. I hate burning trades at front row forward. I'd rather chase some upside. And I think Samuel Afanu is, at risk of sounding cheesy, fine. No. But I don't know if you want to be starting him every week. And I'm currently running May, Hughes, Henry, and Viliami Fafita. I don't know if it's worth a trade.
Yeah, I think for the majority where we've got Hughes and Henry in there in front row forward, for some of us, including me this week, I have to play Liam Henry on field with Terrell May because I've got Curran and Hughes up at front row forward. I don't. Yeah, I mean, you can watch a week, and I think that's fine. But if you need someone decent in your front row forward and you're stuck with a Viliami Fafita or something like that, and you need a playable option, I think Finu's a great shout. As
Can
is,
I ask you something
sorry,
off topic?
Yep.
Liam Henry or Viliami Fafita if you're trading people out. So Liam Henry has a break even of, I think, 71. And Viliami Fafita is obviously not getting too much of a run. Would you rather just have enough, or would you rather watch Liam Henry's cash diminish and maybe get an increased role some of those bye weeks or when Isaiah Yo's out? What are your thoughts?
I would be trading Liam Henry purely because of if he's at the top of his price right now. When we see James Fisher Harris back in this team, we saw Liam Henry's relevance from a Supercoach perspective kind of top when JFH was out. Now that he's back and they're kind of near full strength from a forward perspective, I think that the non-player isn't going to hurt you.
Yep.
It's the AE nightmare player that's going to drop low scores, going to ruin your VC loop, and also Henry's probably going to drop some cash this week as well. So I'd probably do that. Last one on the buy list this week because there are so many good options. We've tried to minimize them, but we've kept it to 5. Max Plath. What are your thoughts on Max Plath? Because there's a bit of chat around him. He's a 5'8" RF dual. Is it position dependent on where you can get him in? Negative 40 break even after his double last week.
I mean, I think that he's a 382. No, so he's got a negative 6 break even. I think that he's a 382k player that is a 382k player. Yes, if you intend on buying him and trading him out at 450k, knock yourself out. But I'm staying away. Yeah, he had a great game last week. But how often are you going to see 2 tries from your lock where you pump the Eels by 30? You're never going to see that again. You're never going to see that influx of points. He was in the right place at the right time. He was great, but he's at best a 400k player that you're paying 382 for. He's not a keeper. Yeah, I'm staying away from Max Plath. As much as I like him, he looks like a 1970s porn star.
That's a great little way to segue into the next one. Yeah, I still like him as a buy. I think he's okay as a buy. If you're looking for that 5'8" option, or if you're looking to cash out on Ethan Strange at 5'8", I actually don't mind playing Plath at 5'8", but at 2RF, I'm not overly keen on it. I'd probably prefer to look elsewhere. But it looks like he's got that starting lock roll sewn up. And with Ray Stone on the bench, it doesn't look like he's going to steal too many minutes from him. Just don't expect him to play 70 minutes every week. He probably drops back to that 45 to 50 range that he has played in the first 3 games he played. All right, let's move on to the holds for this week. Now, wasn't this a pleasant surprise? Jacob Gagai with a little green dot next to his name.
Yep. I mean, I got a few weeks ago, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, look, if you've got him, this isn't the week to trade him out.
Nope. Let's hope he gets a bit of an extended run, make some cash, but you're definitely holding.
Is
Blaze
Richard
Talangi.
Kennar injured?
I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't seen anything on him or Isaac Thompson or Tane Milne or any of these other options, which makes me feel a little bit more confident in Gagai, that they're maybe just going to let Gagai get some meters under his belt, get some legs in the NRL before we've got before what's his name comes back, the broken collarbone, Ty Munro.
Yep.
Blaze Talangi also probably a hold. He's not going to hurt you by not playing. And at his price point, I don't really see too many other players that I would want to move to, unless you've just got a stack of Mattrix cash that he's got in the bank, 700k, and you can go and like trade up to it.
Man. Don't undersell me. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like Blaze Talagi sit there. I probably wasn't going to play him regardless of where he plays. But yeah, if we can get some fullback, Blaze Talagi for 280k, like he would nearly be a trade in. So yeah, that makes 0 sense to trade him out.
Yeah. Alex Johnson 2 weeks away as well. We'll have a look at Gagai and see what happens there. But yeah, Talangi definitely a hold to see if he gets some fullback run. Now we've got the May brothers here on the hold list as well this week, Mattrix. We've got Terrell May and Taylor May. Now Taylor May's obviously had his little week off for personal reasons, and Terrell May minutes were pretty slashed, I guess, last week. So there are a lot of people starting to panic on Terrell May and his output and what Trent Robinson's doing. I don't think anybody can guess, but you've got to hold for another week for especially both of these guys.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's a good matchup for definitely Taylor this week. And Terrell May, like what's happened that's changed it? Like Laurie Hargraves came back in. Terrell May was outperforming him, in my opinion. Look, I'm going to be holding him. I actually see Terrell May as a season-long hold. Like front row forward 3, of course, and playing him on matchup. I'm just doing the absolute best I can do to work out what's going on. And look, maybe this week we'll get a bit of a look.
It's hard to know. I don't think anyone really knows, but I guess the one thing to keep in mind with Taylor May is that he matches up against not Val Holmes' side. So who's the other center, the other side center for the Cowboys?
Tom Chester.
That's right. That could be a pretty nice matchup for him, actually.
Yes.
But yeah, Terrell May.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Good matchup. Yep.
Yeah, and also Terrell May could be just a front row forward 3 all year. He's going to go through peaks and troughs, I think, and they're going to use him big. Then they're going to back his load off a little bit. So yeah, a front row forward 3, perfect option. Probably sit on that. Let us move into the sells for this week. Kalen Ponga. Now, it pains me to say it, and I want to create a support group for anybody who traded Kalen Ponga after round 2 and then traded him back in round 6. It hurts. It hurts. But he is out for anywhere between 8 weeks to the full season with that Liz Frank foot injury. So They call the Liz Frank the ACL of the foot, if that gives you any reference to how serious or how bad this injury can actually be.
Well, I'm glad you're in a lot of physio circles because I'm not. I've never heard that in my life.
Only because I listened to the Physio's Magic Sponge podcast and that he said that. So shout out to Physio. But yeah, Ponga is a sell. Jamal Fogarty, also a pretty clear cut sell. He will be missing some time with that ruptured bicep tendon. So it looks like surgery for him and probably this season as well. We'll see KO Weeks come in and get an opportunity this week, which is great. But yeah, unfortunate for the Canberra Raiders that they're going to miss their lead playmaker. I feel really good about this next one. Luke Brooks, he is a sell. Purely because we've got so many good options coming back. You've got Nico and a lot of people maybe use Brooks as a bit of a stepping stone while Cleary was out to try and make some cash. And unfortunately, it went the other way. And I don't like saying I told you so, but I told you so. But he's a sell, Mattrix.
Can I tell you something funny?
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Strange is worth more than Luke Brooks, and I
Mm-hmm.
could not be more smug.
So good. So good. We did. And the only reason we're carrying on a bit is because we said it in the preseason. And we also got torched after round 2 when Brooks came out and looked like fucking prime DCE.
And like all the time, like we disagree and have differing opinions. Like yourself, myself, and Whisperer all have very differing opinions on how to play Supercoach and everything like that. But the one thing we agreed on was that Luke Brooks was not a buy. And I actually was telling people delete app if you've got Luke Brooks in your team in the preseason. Those guys all hopped in the DMs. But yeah, I haven't heard from them since. Where are you guys?
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Yeah, Brooks is a sell. We'll lose more cash as we go. But yeah, Xavier Savage also likely to be a sell. A bit more of a luxury sell, but we're going to start to see his break even start to skyrocket. I didn't write it down in the notes. I should have.
No, I
521k,
got it.
76 break even. I just don't really have much confidence that he's going to get any more good ball with Fogarty out of this team. And that is the major concern with most of these Raiders assets.
Yeah, it's time to get out of your outside backs from like maybe you can wait a week on Schiller, but he's going to start leaking cash, Savage, this week. So, yeah, and you know what? You bought him for 350k. You made, what, 170k? Great. It's time to burn that trade.
Yeah, agreed. Those are the sells. Now, we've got obviously the watch list here where we talk about the players that aren't necessarily going to make massive cash, and maybe we need to see a little bit more from these players before we do. So let's move into the watch list.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
Thanks. I'm glad you did that.
You like that? Chevy Stewart is the first on the watch list, and yes, he will make money this week, but it will not be much. He, I mean, he had a rough week, didn't he, last week? And I don't think we should judge him on his performance last week.
You know what? He was pretty ordinary there for a while. But he stood up. He absolutely just kept putting in when they were getting pumped. And I saw a bit of heart from Chevy, and I like that. I still won't be bringing him in this week. But you know what? Like, let's give him a week to practice without Fogarty. KO Weeks was probably favourite to be in the halves to start already. So yeah, let's see what they can churn out. I'm probably more positive on the Raiders than most, but there's so many good Supercoach assets to come out of the Raiders at the moment still.
Yes, I think so. Now there was a question from old mate choke artist Jimbo in the chat, who's goal kicking for Canberra. Now the answer could be it could be Chevy Stewart, who goal kicked at cup level. So that's a close watch, and that's the reason why he's on the watch list this week. We just need to. Yeah, I think it's going to be Chevy. So and it's good to see Ricky buying into some of these younger guys and letting him have a run before Rapana gets back. Let's hope that he can hold that spot and get some meters in his legs. So he is a watch. Now, Jai Gray, also a watch Mattrix. And I tell you what, he's only played one game, but fuck, he looked good at fullback. And there has been word that Jason Demetriou would be keen to keep him there if it all benefits the team.
I mean, if you want to lose your job, I'd do that. I am a little bit off Jai Gray just because I don't think we'll see him again under Jason Demetriou or the next coach. I'd be playing Latrell at fullback, but hey, if you've bought him already, write it out. But I wouldn't be bringing in Jai Gray. But I suppose that's why it's on the watch list. If They go Latrell, you're playing center. I would buy into Jai Gray as well.
Yeah. So that's why he's a watch. Let's wait and see. I would not be buying Jai Gray before Latrell Mitchell is back in this team. There is absolutely no point to do that. The next guy, obviously, well, we don't need to watch Jacob Gagai, so he's sweet. Trey Fuller, he was fantastic.
Yep.
You know, obviously, we're not quite sure how long Hammer's going to be out for, but there's every chance that it could be 4+ weeks, which means that we're going to get Trey Fuller for probably a 4 to 5 week stint. And we're also potentially going to get Trey Fuller through Origin. Am I right? Do you still see Hammer playing Origin football?
Yeah, I still see him playing in the centers. Yeah, look, I like Trey Fuller. I really like what I've seen. Gee, I wish he was center wing, Jill.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? That is the only downside. It's so tough to go cheap at fullback. But again, we did it last year with Jareen Buller. Who knows? Trey Fuller could be this year's Jareen Buller. Funnier things have happened.
I wouldn't go that far.
Hey, he
He's too
scored
short.
he scored well the other night, and like I mean, just depends. Do you see the Dolphins winning more games than they lose?
No, and like they were good the other night, but like when he scored was when the Eels had given up.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But again,
Sorry, I'm a negative Nelly in the watch list this week. Sorry, man.
it's okay. It's all right. Someone's got to be. KO Weeks. He's also a watch. Obviously, hasn't played any games yet this season so far, but obviously was touted to be one of the next big things when he went over there and was actually supposed to get this starting 5'8" gig in the preseason, and everyone was all over KO Weeks, and then Ethan Strange came from the clouds and got it at the last minute. So KO Weeks is in the team. He obviously comes in for Fogarty. So yeah, we get 2 weeks to have a look at KO Weeks for free, and even then, we might see a little bit of Chevy Stewart type scoring for KO Weeks initially before he finds his feet.
So, again, Supercoach podcast. In NRL Fantasy, I'm bringing KO Weeks over Chevy Stewart this week. I've got a bit more confidence in him. So,
Yeah. And fantasy, obviously, for anybody who doesn't play, your players gain cash from week 1. Like, there's no 3-week look. So, I do agree. I think I'd be picking Weeks over Stewart in fantasy this week if you play fantasy. Probably more of a fantasy-friendly game. But I went early on Chevy Stewart in week 1 and kind of regret that because he hasn't scored that well in fantasy. But anyway, that's all right.
I think he'll come back.
Very quick question here and a good question from Mustard Custard. Some great YouTube names going on tonight. Anything on Simi Sasagi, who has the negative 40 break even that I referenced earlier and got on the wrong player? What are your thoughts on him? My concern is job security. Just with Elliot Whitehead out of this team, he is starting edge this week, and he did last week as well. He played 80 minutes last week. But I just feel like as soon as Whitehead's back in this team, we're going to see a bench role at best for Sasagi.
Yeah, and I'm worried that I'm not worried. It's great. He might go up to 320k or something along those lines, and then you've got to burn a trade to get him out to make that's 2 trades to make 100k. I am going to look for a bit more value at this point in the year. I know it's only round 8, but I am going to look for a bit more value.